Hey mages, welcome to today's video, and today I have got a very good video for you today. We are looking at the 5, what I think are the spiciest decks currently being played in the World Championship 30 that is currently going on, has been going on since Friday over the weekend as well. These decks are bought for by players that just add in something a little bit different to the standard decks that are there. We're seeing a lot of Gruul prowess, a lot of decks like that, Timor prowess as well. But while you might recognise some of these decks, they've had slightly different tweaks to make them add that extra chili spice. So without further ado, let's take a look at these 5 decks. So all of these decks are built with a sideboard, and as you can obviously know as well, you can play these in best of 1 if you want, but if you want to play best of 3, you can as well. So for ease, I've put all the paper decks that have been used in the World Championship onto MTG Arena so we can have a nice clear picture of what cards people are using. And the first deck that we're looking at is Simon Nielson's Demon deck. Now this is a Dimir Demon deck, and there's been quite a few different types of Demon deck, but this is really one that is slightly against the norm in there, and it's just that spice that I was talking about earlier. A lot of decks are featuring Unstable Slasher and Bloodletter of Alcazots because that is a really good combination of cards. But what this is using is going for the Excruciator win, but adding something a little bit different, as you can see on the screen right now. So when this enters, each player exils all but 6 cards in the library, and the idea then is to mill your opponent as quickly as you can. This is used by having such a good card, by mixing Jace the Perfect Mind into this. It was such a clever idea for this, and I hadn't seen this come across, and I saw it played and I thought this was just so cool. I've been playing a mono black version, and I'll definitely be switching up to go to Dimir now as well, because I'm a blue mage. I do love Jace. Jace was the first planeswalker that I pulled back in Return to Ravnica, wasn't this one. But yeah, this obviously then has -X, target player mills 3 times X cards, so you can play the Excruciator, and then you will have the mind there ready to just mill your opponent straight out and win the game straight off. Now what you will notice about all of these decks, it's a very popular card with any deck playing black, and in the Demon decks is Unholy Annex. This is really good because you can, when you unlock Ritual Chamber, it creates a 6/6 black demon creature token with flying. And at the beginning of your end step, draw a card if you control a demon. Each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life as well. So having a demon on the field, we do have the Excruciator, of course, and it will also run 4 of Archfiend of the Dross, which is a massive 6/6 beta. I like this version of it. It has plenty of removal, which is probably what you need. Quite surprised by the 4 duress in the main to start with. But looking about, what you're coming across, there might have been some leyline decks in there as well. There's lots of trick decks in there, so duress does get rid of some things, and playing against domain as well, getting rid of sunfalls, everything like that. Just cards that are problematic. Duress in your opening hand can be really good. But like I said, the removal, it has a single cut down in the main, 4 go for the throat, and 2 shoot the sheriff as well. And important with the mono-reg Timor decks out there, pumping up those Heartfire, Anoint with Affliction gets to exile the creature, which is really good when they're trying to pump up and do that final bit of damage for you. We've got 4 Fairy Masterminds in there. Opponent draws their second card each turn, you get to draw a card. Flash this in and flying. And then because we've got that, we're running the Spell Stutter in there, Simon, was to make an additional potential better counter spell, and you could have that Fairy Mastermind on the field, and then this becomes a really good counter spell for that. Other than that, in the deck, the land-based Fountain Port can make sack tokens, make tokens. You get, a little bit of card draw there. The 4 Restless Reef is another way to win as well. Win con, when you've played your Excruciator, if you've got this on the field, it will mill 4 cards, so you can attack opponent and then mill the cards to get that quicker win as well. So the full play set of these is another way to win with the Jace in there, and it's another good reason really to add blue. Quick look at the sideboard. You've got cards coming in there. This has been a very popular deck I've seen in the Championship. Target opponent reveals their hand, choose an artifact or creature card, then choose one from the graveyard. So Reanimator decks, anything like that. People that want to be cheating in Atraxas or anything big like that, you can get that in there because they can. Some decks do turn 3, turn 4 and get Atraxa into there. So if they get this in there and you've got, you're sideboarding this in, and then you're just really attacking the graveyard with this as well. Ghost Vacuum is there to do the same thing. Exiling target cards from graveyard, so it does have some graveyard hate in this one. And then there's just a mixture of different single spells, deadly cover up, bit more removal, Gixes as well, outrageous robbery I've been playing with recently that I found really decent as well, and then a couple of Liliana that can come in against some, you know, really good matchups as well. But to me, Unholy Annex is the card that I just love from this deck as well. It can just provide like really good resource advantage for you. You do to get that demon in there, which can trigger other stuff for you, of course. And then the Unholy Annex part, the enchantment room there, can just get some absolute value from. So this was the first deck, or the spiciest one, but let's get on to the next one. So the next deck is a deck that I've been playing in Best of One myself recently. This is Golgari Ramp, Sam Pardee's version of it. And it's a tiny bit different to the usual. Usually a lot of these, you know, the Golgari Ramp decks will run early creatures that, you know, something like Mosswood Dreadnought that you might notice that is not here. That is normally a staple in all of these as well. And like in the previous deck as well, Caustic Bronco is a card that is generally used in these. But what it aims to do is to use its early disruption, early removal, and just an absolute all-star against any kind of like enchantment decks, anything like the Aura decks, Gruul Prowess decks, removing stuff like that. Glister Sunslayer is just an absolute, you know, nightmare card for those decks. But using like your cut downs and your Duresses, 3 in the main, 2 cut downs, Anoint with Affliction, 3 go for the throat as well, and then Tear Asunder. You've got so much early removal that you're taking away the creatures from this deck and playing this as well. Also, you've got, of course, Virtue of Persistence, and then you're building up Deadly Cover Up. So you've just got like an absolute plethora of removal in this green-black ramp deck. And then what you're using is you're up the beanstalk to draw your cards and using this as your card drawing machine. Playing cards like Overlord of the Hauntwoods that will come in there, trigger, even if you play it for Impending, you get to draw a card, and then you get that lovely Everywhere token as well, so ramping out with this as well, which is really, really cool. Obviously, another card in there, you can play the Harvester of Misery, has Menace, enters, creatures all get -2/2, which can sweep up a lot of token decks and everything like that, but you can also discard it for even more removal. The ever-famous Sheoldred, of course, is going to be in there. Whenever you draw a card against your other opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. Just such a staple card in any type of black deck, really. Very surprised that this was never ever banned, but it seems to just, you know, been okay. You can always say it dies to a go for the throat, which is obviously you can't use that for, but it does. It just dies to removal. But yeah, not a lot of people like hearing that, but it really does. But all in all, I've played this in the Best of One. And I went 4-0 in my early start with it, so I was very, very happy with this deck. Singles of Robbery, Outrageous Robbery is really nice late game, and then taking some really good cards. And then Pillage the Pog as well, which, you know, you can generally play this early with a little bit of ramp and getting this and finding the card you need, whether that be the Deadly Cover Up, Tear Asunder to get rid of something, or find your Glister. It's just a really, really cool card. I just like this type of version, not using the early creatures, because I found, like we say, sometimes they just kill off and then they're just gone. I like building, you know, the way this deck is built around using up the beanstalk and playing these, you know, later spells, and then sometimes relying on the win con of Virtue Persistent, where you've just annihilated everything off the board and then you're just picking the best creatures and putting them onto the field. Also, an important card is Restless Cottage, because this can get wins on its own. I've had wins with this, 2 of them on the field attacking in, you know, they're big 4/4s, and it can get you those food tokens, just gradually bring you back into games where your life gain was low, and then you've got all these food tokens to go and get your 3 life as well. So all in all, I do love the different type of makeup for this green-black ramp deck. In the sideboard, generally things to, you know, change matches, more removal, cut down, hand disruption as well. Going against the graveyard decks, anything like that, you've got a couple of ghost vacuums in there. Also, Anissa can come in, you know, against control decks. The +1, if you get to play this for bigger, and then you just keep making those +1s, because the loyalty is so big, unless they've actually just got Planeswalker removal. It's hard to deal with the amount of removal in here, because they just can't attack and get through. And then just various different things. Hand disruption with Heist. You've got more Tear Asunders that's very good against all the enchantment decks, and the exile of that is sweet as well. So no sort of recursion coming there. A couple of Alcazots. Flying, lifelink, just hard to deal with unless it's exiled, because it just gets to land, and then you can just retransform it and replay as well. So all in all, a very good fun deck, and definitely one that I'm going to be using, hopefully, to rank up with. So we're going to stick with Ramp, but we're going to Domain Ramp. So very interesting build this, because it's spicy. They left out a Traxxas in this deck. So leaving out a Traxxas, which is probably in 90% of domain decks, and what it's using is Zer Eternal Schemer. Now, I'd completely forgot about this card. Enchantment creatures you control have Death Touch, Lifelink, and Hexproof. So you can flip this into one of your enchantments. Now, when you've got an Overlord on the field, you can quickly turn this into a massive 5/5 Lifelink, a Death Touch, Hexproof, which is just going to be absolutely massive. You're ramping out to get that as well. Or even potentially turning Leyline Binding into a 6/6 massive enchantment beating creature as well. So it was a definite different type of version of this that I'd never even thought of myself, which is, Spice personified. Adding Zer, as you can see, it just works so well with the deck, and it's a very interesting type of build. It still has a lot of the same stuff in there. You're revolving around your Sunfalls and your ley lines to get rid of the early removals. 4 Get Lost as well to get rid of those early creatures as well that can attack enchantments, planeswalkers, creatures. And then you have Temporary Lockdown to sweep up early decks, Gruul Prowess, anything like that. Scroll Shift as a single of, I actually do really love this card, so I love that it's in there as a single of, exiling something and then drawing a card as well for 3 mana is value. But your card engine drawing machine, as always, is up the beanstalk. This was probably the best uncommon from that set. Definitely up there in the top 3 anyway. Enters, draw a card. Value 5 or greater, draw a card. And as you can see, Herd Migration's in there. Overlord of the Mistmores as well. You've got Leyline Bindings. You've got so many ways to literally just go through your deck with this as well. It's just absolutely perfect. It uses a single of Spelunking. So lands you control entered untapped, which is nice. We got we've got triple colours there. We got but we do have ways with the Hauntwoods to make one of those add 1 mana of any colour with the Everywhere tokens, which I think works perfectly for this as well. Cavern of Souls obviously in there to make stuff uncounterable. You don't want your Zer being countered. Or you could just use it potentially on your avatars as well. So get a couple of them in there. Works really well against any type of counter magic decks. And then you've just got like a plethora of all the different coloured lands, because you're a lot of different colours in this one. So you're using this, surveilling, just a mixture of lands in there as well. If you have a look at the stats, it's for 4.2 average, and it's going for 26 lands in this deck as well. So high amount of land, but no 4-drops in the main, which is quite interesting as well. But you go to the sideboard, it's set up, by having the blue in there, you can add in the gates. There's versions that run Doppelgang in the main, and they're looking to copy stuff. Totally different to this version. 4 Ghost Vacuum. So obviously Zer was very worried about any type of graveyard, opposing decks or anything like that. So having 4 of these in the main is quite interesting, and I would love to see how that worked out. And then another one, Paw Patch Formation, that you've seen in various different decks popping up now, especially in the sideboards. This runs 4. So destroying enchantments, creatures with flying, and draw a card, create a food token. So another card that sort of slips me by a little bit, and definitely in best of 3, I think this for a sideboard is very, it's got a lot of things that you can do, and it's very situational and can probably get you out of a lot of sticks as well. So I do like that is in there as a 4 as well. Exile, you need that with the Heartfires and everything like that. The big Gruul, any kind of leyline deck. So you got the Smite as well doing damage, and not on my watch. So it is set up to meet against, be very good against certain matchups in the sideboard. And then hopefully by having this in there and having the hexproof that goes on your enchantment creatures just makes it all, harder to get rid of. People playing Sunfalls against you, yeah, that's going to be awkward against this, but that's when then you bring in your couple of negates and everything like that. But all in all, a very, very fun deck. I've got to craft a couple of land, but I'll be giving this one a go for sure. So next up, we have a black-white demon deck, and I put this in there from Chen Yeh because primarily it just looks like a mono-black deck with a couple of legions. But then you look at the sideboard, look at the land base, and you see there's a lot of white there for just a single Get Lost and a legion, because this is spicy, because when you look at the sideboard of this deck, it can just transform into a different deck, and it's using the best of what white has. It's got Rest in Peace in there to attack graveyards, temporary lockdowns for the early aggro decks, Timors and stuff like that. It also, by adding in white, you can add in Kaya into that as well, and then you've got Eternal Wanderer, which I think is pretty sweet. It's not coming up there for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, it has a very good sideboard in there, which I think is great that you can actually transform into a slightly different deck by just adding that other colour. Main board, it's going for Unstoppable Slasher and the Alcazot kind of demon deck that I did speak about earlier. But then adding in white, you get to attack tokens. Exile, ton and permanent tokens, all tokens that play. So you're really going for like the I'm trying to think of the name of it. I can't think of the name of the enchantment. Oh my god, it's just gone completely. Someone's going to put it in the comments. But it's probably one of the best. I'm going to have to look for it. It's one of the best enchantments that you can possibly get at the moment. So we're going to have a quick look at it. I'm going to remember it as soon as it comes up. It's a rare. It costs 3 mana. It's an enchantment. Where are you? Caretaker's Talent. Oh my god, I could not remember that. So yeah, Legion of Ashes is great against that. Getting rid of the tokens and then basically just getting rid of that. I can't believe I couldn't remember the name of Caretaker's Talent. But then it has so much removal. Hand removal, duress, cut downs, disfigure as well. Interesting to disfigure in there. Just I wonder why they went for that rather than, I suppose, it's good against Heartfires early. Then they can't do the damage and stuff like that. You can shrink down the power. Whereas cut down, you would kill it and then it would still do the damage. But then the power will obviously that. So that's interesting being in there. A single Anoint and then a single Nowhere to Run and a single Go for the Throat. So it's a different spicy build because it's a lot of single-offs and a lot of 1-2s. Is definitely a bit different, but sort of relying on this amazing card again, Unholy Annex, that is in all the demon decks. But yeah, it's just something that was a little bit different to me. Spicy one-offs, everything like that, splashing in the white to play legions, and then your transformative sideboard by adding the white that you could then bring in either more removal or a couple of really, really powerful planeswalkers. So, speaking of devil, Dagoberto Silva has brought a blue-white Caretaker build. There it is. It was just on the next deck. So, Caretaker is probably one of the most powerful cards that came from this set. It is just so good. Putting the token in, triggering, drawing cards. It's a card drawing machine, potentially. Copying stuff, and then giving a pump to all your creature tokens as well, giving them +2/2. It's a card that, there's a reason why there's so much enchantment hate in all those other decks, is because you have to deal with the Caretaker. It is just an absolute machine of a card, but this is added spice because it's adding in blue. Now, what it does is you've got Enigma Jewel. So this enters tapped. You can tap for 2 mana, spend its only to activate abilities. You've got Collector's Vault in there, so you can pay the 2 then, draw the card, and then discard a card and create a treasure token. So you've just got a perfect combination of cards here, where you could tap this, use this, draw a card, and then create a treasure token as well. So you're just netting stuff. It's just absolute value. If you can curve into that and make a treasure token every turn, you're just going to be triggering your talent and drawing cards. It is just a great found thing. I mean, this was just Dagoberto. This is a brilliant, brilliant deck. I absolutely love it. So the Enigma Jewel almost acts like a Soul Ring. So for those you play Commander, just putting it in there, enter tap. You can't use it on your first turn, but then you're just tapping 2 mana, making your Vault, making your token, and then building ramp up, and then having the talent draw you cards as well. It's absolutely brilliant. In the deck as well, because it runs a lot of different types of lands, only 6 planes. We're not running, what's the card called? Lay Down with Arms is not in the main deck or in the sideboard at all. You're relying on other stuff. You've got 4 Get Lost, 4 Passing Gust. That I found this card really good, this uncommon card. I just found it very useful, and gifting a tap fish sometimes is nothing, just to get something off. And then you have some planeswalkers to do the damage here. So Elspeth, Jason there, and then the Eternal Wanderer. So you can win games with planeswalkers. You can definitely win, without a doubt. You'll be making tokens with Archangel, lifelink tokens, and then you have the Eternal Wanderer as well that can make those samurai tokens. All, of course, triggering Caretaker's talent when that is on the field, and then building up to your level 3 and giving all these massive tokens an extra +2/2 as well. Important land in this deck, 4 of felt import, because it can be a way to draw cards, make more tokens to trigger talent. I mean, it is just, you know, it's just a well-cogged oil machine. It's just a well-oiled cog machine. It's just brilliant. Sunfall, without a doubt, you're playing tokens, you're going to be souping up every one of those other big creatures, exiling them all with that, and then you're just going to replay and remake tokens with everything you've got in this deck as well. It's just a really fun, different build that I've seen with this by adding in the blue and just having the Enigma, Collector's Vault and Caretaker's Talent trio just makes it spicy to me. You go to the sideboard. As most sideboards, you can bring in extra Jace to go for that more of a mill plan if you want, I suppose, as well, which is nice. But then you've got lots of exile that's needed in standard at the moment, and then exercise. So you can see how many people were scared of those, those Gruul decks and pumping up thing. They just want to exile everything and attacking graveyard decks with 4 Rest of Peace and more exile with the temporary lockdown as well. But all in all, Dagoberto, I love this deck. I think I've just got to craft one of these, I think, to be able to give this a go. So I am going to give this a go. But let me know if any of these 5 decks from the, the spiciest decks that I found from the World Championship 30. Hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please give it a big thumbs up. Thank you to my Patreons. If you want to become one of them, make sure you check out the description below. But hope you enjoyed it, and let me know how you get on with these decks.